All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. Another episode of Catching Up with Jacob. And here he is, Jacob Prash. Good afternoon, Jacob. How are you?
Blessings in Jesus to everyone, to our friends in America, Canada, Britain, Australia, Far East, Israel, South Africa, New Zealand. Thank you all for joining us.
Blessings, Jacob. Thank you for being with us today. David Lister, how are you this afternoon?
I am doing quite well,
There you
Marco. It's good
are.
to be here. Quite concerned because we got a storm kind of rumbling this way. So
I heard.
hopefully Jacob and I don't get censored
Well,
by,
Yeah.
by nature.
yep. Just don't go outside. You'll
Yeah.
be all right. You'll be all right. Praise the Lord. Jay, how are you this it's afternoon now, so it's already past noon here in California.
I'm doing well. It's good to be here. Just wanted to give a quick update since people are asking. My father is fine. He actually we signed on a new car this past week, and he took it out. So I'm praying that he is able to drive it without any incident.
What
Praise
did you get? What type?
I'm glad.
I got a Volkswagen.
Volkswagen. Yeah, that's very good. Amen. So thank you, Jay, and much prayer for your father and recovery, and he's doing well. So thank the Lord for that. Praise the Lord. Davey, good morning, and you are catching up with Davey. We're catching up with you. I don't know where you are at the moment, but an undisclosed location somewhere in Australia.
Yes, yeah. Not quite the usual location, but it's good to be with you guys here. Actually, from Sydney and Sydney, Australia this morning. I'm only here for the weekend, so to my fellow brothers and sisters in Sydney, I may get to see a couple of you tomorrow at Sutherland, but apologies if I don't get to catch up with you all. But good to be with you guys today.
Thanks, David. Thanks for being with us. And we want to welcome all those who are watching live and those who will watch later. Welcome to Catching Up with Jacob. We talk about current events in light of biblical prophecy and what's going on in the world, keep you up to date and let you know what's going on. Jacob, what's going on with you? Any announcements you want to make?
Mother's Day, I shall be blessed and graced to be with you in Devore on Sunday, the 11th of May. We will be there. We will do something for Mother's Day, obviously, and there will be some preaching and some fellowship. And if you are in Southern California and you don't have a church, be you in the Inland Empire or Eastern Los Angeles suburbs, please come and see us. We're near San Bernardino. Just go to the Memorial website, get the directions, or Christian Church of Devore. We'd love to see you. After that, I'm off to the Far East, Japan, Vietnam, see our children in the Philippines, where I've not been for a while. We have a big children's mission there. Thailand, prison ministries in Thailand with David Lister, and then I'm off, and with Scott Noble, and then I'm off to Australia and New Zealand. Look forward to seeing all of you there. Every blessing in Jesus.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate. Thank you so much. And we'll be glad to see you here and next week. So if you're in the area, ccodtruth.org. You find more information, ccodtruth.org or moriel.org, and you find out. And we love to have you fellowship with us. Come say hi and let us know how you're doing and what the Lord's doing in your life. We'd love to catch up with you. No pun intended, catching up with Jacob.
Yeah.
And physically. All right, David Lister, you'll be with us also on that Sunday. Any announcements you got?
Well, please pray for us. Scott Noble has been working very hard. We have several new prisons God is just opening up doors left and right. We're up to almost 9 prisons, and we have our tapes going into others. So God is being good there. Also going to Japan, and James and I's The Way of the Bushido. Gonna use that again. It's a really good way to reach Japanese people. So
Absolutely.
it
All right.
works, doesn't it?
Thanks, David. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. God bless you. And Jay, what do we got on our media side? Podcasts, YouTube channel, Memorial Chapel, and all the other platforms we're in.
Yeah, just to go over quickly, we have these podcasts every single week. We add to our podcast library. You can download basically wherever podcasts are found, Podchasers, Apple, Spotify, and of course, Amazon podcasts as well, Buzzsprouts. So make sure to download the latest lessons. Make sure that they're on your hard drive so you can listen to them, whether you're on a flight, whether you're on a bus, wherever you're not having internet or sell your service, you'll have those lessons to catch up. Also, if you haven't already, please go to Moriel Chapel on YouTube and subscribe.
Yes.
We're growing there every single day. That is where you're going to find the new Bible studies will be both live streamed and the edited versions will be there. And finally, I'm going to keep plugging it because it's growing and we really, really love it. It's the Twitter site, X. If you have not, it is Moriel TV on Twitter, and it is growing, and hopefully someday we can figure out how to do a chat room. It's a little bit hard with the software that we're offered from X at this point, but they're improving every single day. And by the way, it's the only place you can get a commercial-free stream of Catching Up with Jacob with no interruptions. It's very smooth, is what I hear.
I like it. I actually do like it. So hopefully we can do some spaces there and some other things in the future. We've been talking about it for a while, so I think we just need to do it. Davey, any announcements you got? Just want to make sure I cover that. If you don't, that's okay. But I just want to make sure you get a chance to make any announcements.
Yeah, just a reminder. Yeah, Jacob will be in Sydney on June 7th and 8th at Sutherland Christian Fellowship in Kirrawee, and in Brisbane on Tuesday, June the 10th, 2 sessions, an afternoon at 2 p.m. and an evening at a little bit after 7 p.m. So, if you're able to, they're the only 2 places Jacob will be speaking while he's in Australia. Yeah, I encourage you all to try and make them if possible. Also, there are some short little current event videos Marco's been doing, which going up on Devore Truth YouTube channel, on Twitter, and also on Moriel YouTube. I urge you to keep your eyes open for them and enjoy them too. There's some really good stuff there.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, Davey. And looking forward to having Jacob there with you guys and hanging out in fellowship. That's great. Jacob Prash, let's catch up.
Let's do it.
The fires in Jerusalem, according to the chief fire department, the fire department chief of Jerusalem says is the biggest fire in the country. 5,000 to 6,000 acres have been burned. Miraculously, there is no homes that have been destroyed. There seems to be no casualties, at least that they reported. But they have burning for about 30 plus hours. It's contained now. It's not totally out. There is some very, very good possibility this was a terrorist attack, not just some fires and started by natural causes, but terrorism, because Hamas has been urging people to set fires, and there's about 18 of them that have been caught doing it. So, Jacob, walk us through that terrible fire. You've been
very briefly. This is the second time an attack like this has been orchestrated. The first was something called the Shadaf burning that happened in the late 1980s. 22% of Israel's reforested land was destroyed deliberately by Islamic terror using arson.
Wow.
Homes on the outskirts of Haifa were burned. Firefighters and soldiers who were augmenting the fire departments were injured and killed. It was absolutely a terrible disaster called the Shadaf, and people remember it. This has eclipsed that. This is worse than that. Now, let me just explain something about Israel and Israeli culture to people. The forests in Israel, the reforested land, are reforested mainly but through the funding of the Jewish National Fund. People give money. People plant trees in these forests in memory of ancestors or relatives who died in the Holocaust. They plant trees in honor of Gentiles who protected Jews in the Holocaust. They plant these trees as a symbol of the Jewish people growing in their land again after the Holocaust, after being burned in the ovens. Now they're coming to their own land, and the trees are planted in memory of these people who died in the Holocaust, and also of Christians who protected protect the Jews in the Holocaust.
Yes.
Some at the expense of their own life. So it's a big deal. Secondly, the land was laid barren. There was only some orange groves around Jaffa. The rest of the land was deforested. It's a wonderful description of what it was like in the Ottoman period by Mark Twain. It was a barren nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It was only malaria-infested swamps, which the Israelis, the Zionists, drained, that were infested with Anopheles mosquitoes and malaria, or it was just desert. So the reforestation represents the rebirth of the nation, both the land, but also of the people, because the trees are planted in memorial of the people who perished in the Holocaust and things like that. Israel's Arbor Day is called Tu B'Shvat. It's a big deal nationally. Every school has a pageant, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, all kinds of citizens organizations. Arbor Day is a big deal in Israel. It's a big deal. Different kind of trees and fruit trees and all this kind of stuff. It represents the rebirth of the nation. So it was with that understanding that the Islamic terrorists targeted the forests, because it's a symbol of the rebirth of the Jewish nation, of the land and of the people. And they did it for that reason. It was a statement that we want to destroy Jews, we want to destroy Israel, we want to destroy Zionism. It has a symbolic meaning as well as a destructive meaning. It's also caused major problems in the traffic arteries into and out of Jerusalem. Yep. From Ben Gurion Airport, which is the main airport in Israel. It's caused smog in Tel Aviv and the suburbs of Tel Aviv, but particularly on the south and west of Jerusalem is where the most devastation is. And again, this was an area, if you ever saw the film Cast a Giant Shadow, where the siege of Jerusalem took place and the battle to liberate Jerusalem and the war for independence took place. It's that area where there's many battle markers and battle sites. It's also the area of Emmaus, on the road to Emmaus, where Jesus appeared after his resurrection to Clopas and the disciples. So it's an important area to Christians and to Jews, and historically, and also for faith-based reasons, for both Christians and Jews. And this is where the Muslims, of course, have attacked. The fires are about under control, just about under control. Yeah. Fortunately, Israel got help from Bulgaria, from Cyprus, and from Greece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Fortunately,
Amen.
The Cypriots and the Greeks have interest in developing oil fields, underwater oil fields in the Mediterranean. With Israel. There has to be an economic cooperation between Israel, Cyprus, and Greece. So the Greeks and Cypriots have an economic interest in befriending Israel. Additionally, both the Cypriots and the Greeks dislike the Turks, dislike Erdogan, and dislike radical Islam. Cyprus was divided. The Muslims took 40% of the island, even though they're only 15% of the population. So there's a common enemy factor and an economic factor. Greece, at a time of growing anti-Semitism, Greece and Cyprus have become more philo-Semitic, as has Bulgaria. So Israel has been getting aid from certain other countries in the area, but it's worse than the shut-off, and the shut-off was
pretty bad,
horrible, and this is worse.
Yeah, Jacob, I don't want to underestimate it. It is for sure what many within not only the fire department chief, Netanyahu, even the president of Israel says this is a terror attack and is very reminiscent to October 7th. So let's make sure as people are watching it, we're not just mentioning some kind of small fire or tragic fire. It is tragic, but this was a deliberate attack, a terrorist attack. Unlike we've seen since October 7th. And these are some of the areas here. Jacob, you're talking about the road to Emmaus, but Nov Shalom, Moshav Eshtaol, which is also Canada Park, was also affected by.
That is very close to Emmaus. That is walking distance to Emmaus.
Yeah, it is. And of course, Jacob, to stay with you, It on Wednesday is this is what's so interesting. On Wednesday is when the fires began, sort of Wednesday night. But on that same day, you had the 77th day of independence. This is the 77th anniversary of the independence
Yes.
of Israel in the shadows of the wildfire. So it made perfect sense to attack
Yes.
Israel not only through forestry, but on that particular day where they commemorate the signing of the Israeli Declaration of Independence in 1948. Of course, and on May 14th, they would
Yes.
the UN would recognize it.
Yes.
I want to ask you this: what does that mean, and can you encapsulate it? Not only the terror attack, but the Independence Day.
Well, Yom Ha'atzmaut is called Yom Ha'atzmaut. That is the official day when, after the UN partition, Israel legally constituted as a nation. I was there for the 35th one, actually.
Oh wow!
I remember the 35th one. I was in Jerusalem. It's quite a celebration. And you're right, they're targeting that day. Now,
Yeah.
can you imagine if at Ramadan,
Oh,
nationalists or radical Zionists burned Nablus or burned,
check on yeah,
Hebron
yeah.
or burned East Jerusalem on Ramadan, the world would be up in arms.
That's right.
You're doing this on a important day to the Muslim people, and you're burning it. But when Israel's the victim, it gets downplayed.
That's right. That's right. David Lister, I'm going to go to you. You've been to Israel. You know what this means politically and socially. Where are the Jews today? If you think about it politically and socially, Independence Day, we're being attacked again, another terrorist attack. Don't want to, don't want to underestimate it. This was a big deal, but they came through politically and socially. What does this mean for the Jewish people?
It's another attack on their freedom. It's like just as they try to get over October 7th, now comes this, and on top of that, last night Houthis shot a rocket at Haifa. Luckily it was intercepted because Haifa is where I believe the nuclear reactor is, isn't it, Jacob?
No, that's in Dimona.
Yeah, Dimona. Yeah,
It's close to Haifa, yes?
Don't know far.
Not far. Oh, okay. Sorry, but anyway, they're under relentless attack, and instead of experiencing the freedom found in their own land, it's constant attack, and it's got to be wearing on them, and but they have a job to finish. I think many soldiers want to finish the job in Gaza, which they have no reason not to, and they'll actually have a freedom on their Western Front if they do that. If Lebanon gets finished with Hezbollah, then you just got to finish up Judea and Samaria.
Yeah, for sure. We'll come back to that war front because we're on day 574 of the war with Hamas. If anybody's keeping count, I am, because these things are not to be underestimated. Jacob, biblically, for those who don't know, biblically, what does this mean for the 77th year of independence, so the commemoration of 1948? What does this mean for people that don't know or are new to the channel or new to to Christianity? Why do we make such an emphasis of Israel and the independence and becoming a nation?
Well, one thing, if you ask them from a biblical perspective, I have to wonder, is there a connection between the sets of seven that we see in Daniel chapter 9 and the sets of seven that we see throughout the book of Revelation?
That's
seven
interesting.
is a significant number in biblical typology, particularly related to prophecy.
Very good point.
I'm not saying there is one, but there is a theological and spiritual connection that would relate to Scripture. I would point to that, to the 77th. Of course, you will have issues of the lunar and solar year. Nonetheless, the 77, it is not insignificant. It's quite a situation. Well, again, the forests represent, for the Jewish National Fund, the forests represent the rebirth of the nation and the repopulation of the Jewish world after the Holocaust. 2/3 of European Jewry were killed in the Holocaust. Survivors came from the Holocaust to Israel as refugees and helped rebuild the land. It's a direct attack on their reestablishment as a nation. And this time they went for Jerusalem. Last time it was Haifa.
Correct.
In the Sharaf, it was mainly Haifa that was in. Now it is on the western suburbs and outskirts of Jerusalem. So now it's aiming for Jerusalem.
Yeah, I think there is, as Christians, we do see obviously the rebirth of the nation of Israel, 77th anniversary, of course, and we see it as something prophetic that's going to be important for the last days. And this is why we make the emphasis of Jews not only back in the land, but back in Jerusalem, back in the area of the Temple Mount is now being under the, somewhat of control of the IDF, not officially, but you went out there, Jacob, and it just seems like, well, there was IDF soldiers mainly and probably only as far as we could see on the Temple Mount. Jacob, since the war, 574 days, the return of the hostages are still a big part of this, and that's their supreme goal. And but there's a little bit of controversy right now because of what the prime minister said, but what his wife said. His wife said, well, there's fewer than 24 living hostages out of the 59. That was supposed to be some kind of national security. They maintained that under national security, but she was able to come out and said it. Trump echoed it on his prayer, on National Day of Prayer, where, look, where's Eden Alexander? Eden Alexander is an American who's been taken hostage by Hamas. We're not received them back. Where is he? Why is he not here? Why are Democrats so in love with the illegal aliens and the gang members going to visit them in El Salvador, and they're not visiting Eden Alexander? Jacob, can you explain that? I mean, the hostages is one thing, but not an American as well, and there's no care.
Let's understand something. Between 2/3 and 3/4, it may be as high as 3/4 of Democratic voters in the United States are in opposition to Israel's policies. They are not pro-Zionist. You've got these left-wing Jews, the Menlauses, the traitors of the day, people like Schumer, certainly Chuck Schumer, certainly, Wasserman Schultz, Steve Cohen, Blumenthal. You've got these left-wing Jews who are in the same political party with Olmert, with Tlaib, with open anti-Zionists and anti-Semites, yet they're united with them politically against the most pro-Zionist and pro-Jewish president that we've ever had. This tells you something in itself. They compare Trump to Nazis. A pro-Jewish president being compared to the people who murdered the Jews. This is how absurd it is. It's gone into the field of entertainment with that Larry Davis, who I don't like. I always found him to be a bit vulgar. But comparing a president who moved the embassy to Jerusalem, who has Jewish grandchildren, who has consistently proven himself to be a loyal friend of Israel, more than any other president, more than any other administration, and you got this comedian calling him a Nazi. Take a visit to Auschwitz, where we've just been.
That's right.
See what a Nazi really was.
That's right.
It's just the left-wing Jews of America are traitors not only to America, they're traitors to the Jewish people. They are traitors to the Jewish people. That includes these lawyers who are defending campus activists, Islamic pro-Hamas activists. Some of the lawyers defending them are left-wing Jews. This is an outrage, an absolute outrage. There is a schism between diasporic Jewry based in the United States and the Jews of Israel. Yeah. There's two Jewish worlds now. They're no longer knit by faith, really. They're no longer knit by Zionism. They're no longer knit by the legacy of the Holocaust. The Israelis live in it and still fight the same kind of Jew hatred that took place in the Holocaust is a reality for the Israelis. The American Jews of Hollywood and of New York and Miami who vote for Wasserman Schultz and Schumer, they're in the same party with Tlaib and Olmert. It doesn't even make any logical sense.
It does not.
And they hate the Republican. I'm not a Republican, but most Republicans are pro-Zionist. Most Republicans are pro-Zionist. Most Democrats are anti-Zionist.
I was listening to Bernie Sanders, so forgive me for that, but I was listening to Bernie Sanders. Wanted to hear what he had to say, the verbal diarrhea that comes out of his mouth, and he's got that finger that he waves at, sort of like this.
It's intestinal dysentery. It's worse than
that. And he's waving the finger, but Jacob, no mention of any of the hostages, no mention of Eden Alexander, an American. Yet he would say that we need to go visit the gang members that have been deported from Tren de Aragua, or the MS-13 guys. Jacob, why are they so much interested in those guys and not a Jewish American who's been held hostage?
I'd point to the Jewish American author and radio personality Michael Savage. He wrote a book that liberalism is a mental illness. He's right.
It's proven true.
Michael Savage told the truth.
Yeah, it's proven true. Absolutely. And David Lister, I'm going to go to you real quick. Do you think it sounds like 59 hostages, but maybe 24, less than 24 are still alive. This has been the rally cry of the Jewish people. When they say, I'm Israel, I'm Israel high, they remember the hostages. And this celebration, of course, of the 77th anniversary, they remember those who have fallen. They remember the hostages. Is there going to be any movement by the American administration here with Trump to try to get at least the bodies of those who have died to come back, let alone the ones that are still alive, if there's 24, including one American?
Well, for Hamas, when they turn their last chips in, they have no reason not to be slaughtered.
Correct.
So to hold on to them is their only way out. And I keep wondering, and I hope I am wrong 100%. I hope the hostages are alive.
Yes, please.
The 24. I hope there is the American, but I grow pessimistic because they're not turning anything over.
574 days, David. 574 days. Unbelievable. Unreal.
They're undoubtedly facing prolonged malnutrition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That long with being malnourished, it's going to affect overall health. They require urgent medical help, which is obviously being denied to them. David is absolutely right. There are two reasons they're not releasing the hostages. One, they're fighting for their survival. It's the only thing they have to stop the Israelis from going in and ending Hamas, is because the Israelis don't want to kill the hostages, in the process. Now, the second thing is, if you look at the Hamas propaganda, and unfortunately I do, you look at it, they're bragging that the Israelis have not been able to defeat them yet.
Yeah.
They don't take into account the reason the Israelis have not been able to defeat them yet is because they don't want to get the hostages killed. Well, the Muslim mind, the radical Muslim mind of Hamas, doesn't care about their own people. They will use their own children as human shields. They'll put armament storage in a school or a hospital. They don't care about their own civilians. They know the Israelis do. And the Islamic mentality that they subscribe to sees that as a weakness. They see that as a weakness and say, look, the Zionists, the Jews, they can't defeat us. They've been fighting all this time. They have all these tanks and planes and weapons, and they're still not able to defeat Hamas. You're holding hostages. If the hostages weren't there, they wiped you out in 2 hours. But the propaganda machine works that way.
Yeah, well, Sinwar said it many times. Yeah. Sinwar said we have to get this propaganda. We have to get as many, crazy enough, we have to get as many Muslims or Palestinians to die in order to propagate this war, so that we see Israel as an evil regime.
Well, fortunately, him and Nasrallah are two of them.
But with this type of mentality, Jacob, that they want to die because it ensures them a paradise and the 72 virgins. So how come they're not lining up?
To be shahadi, to die in a jihad.
Yeah, how come? So are they double-minded?
Sure they are.
Or do they just want other people to die? Not them.
Both.
Yeah, Jake, I'm going to switch gears real quick, staying in the Middle East, but switching gears to the war front. It's the Druzes are calling the Israeli government to intercede for them because they're being persecuted and attacked. This is happening in southern south part of Damascus, and
Yes.
they've been almost to the point where they're being exterminated. A Druze community in that area. The Israelis went in there with the Air Force and bombed that area to try to free them up. This has been according to the Syrian Observatory of Human Rights, there's been at least 39 Druzes that have been killed in the area of Jaramana, which is south of Damascus. So they have been Syrian forces, which is basically terrorists, have gone into those areas. The IDF has repelled them back, and this is the IDF official statement: "We will not allow harm to our Druze brethren." Jacob, describe the Druze and the Israeli relationship and the I guess in the saving grace of the IDF going in there and trying to save not only the Druzes, but I'll have to add also the Christians. This is particularly
Yes,
with the Druze,
Christians
but also the Druze.
and what they defined as ex-Muslims,
That's right. That's right.
who are Muslims who become Christians, mainly evangelicals.
Praise God. Praise God.
Now let's understand, when you see ex-Muslim, they're not becoming Syrian Orthodox Church or something. They're becoming born-again Christians. The growth of the church in Iran has spilled over to a degree into Iraq and into Syria. That is what they mean by ex-Muslims. Now, the Druzes are situated mainly in Galilee and the Golan Heights, in Syria on the southern and the southwestern outskirts and suburbs of Damascus, and in Lebanon, in the not the Shuf Mountains, but the mountains south of Beirut, where Wali Jumblat was. The Druze are there. The Druzes in Lebanon do not like the Syrians or Iranians. The Druzes in Syria just want to be left alone and be allowed to commune with their families and relatives in Galilee. The Jews in Galilee, in the Golan Heights, are pro-Zionist and serve in the army because the Jews gave them equal rights, representation in the Knesset, the parliament. They have democratic freedom. They have all the rights of an Israeli citizen. They're considered to be very good soldiers, so they're honored as a people group. And also, the Jews have given them control of their own religious sites, the places that are sacred to them and their religion. Of all things, their prophet, like the Muslims have Muhammad and Christians have Jesus, their prophet is Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses. That is their Moses figure. And they're hated by Sunni Muslim radicals and by Shia Muslims simply because they're not Muslims. They're native Arab speakers, ethnically related to Arabs, but a separate people. Religion has secret tenets. They don't write them down. They live to be very old. Most people live into their 90s and some go over 100. Okay? And before the older generation dies off, they tell the secrets to the next generation. So you got men in their 70s and 80s finding out the true teachings of the religion. A few Druzes have been saved. A few have been saved. And they don't know because they weren't old enough to know all the secrets. But one of the reasons the Druzes wear these baggy trousers is because they believe when the Messiah comes, men are going to have babies. They do not per se mourn a death. They believe when a Druze dies, another one is born. It's a not exactly reincarnation, but it's related to reincarnational beliefs.
Very interesting.
There's also a certain mysticism, an Oriental mysticism in their religion, but they're very loyal to Israel, and they're personally. Well, you've met some, Marco.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I was gonna ask Jay. Jay, we spent
nice
some
people
time there. We spent some time there. Jay, what was your thought of being in the Druze village?
I want to retire there. And that's what I want to do. It was beautiful. It was away from the hustle and bustle of the main cities, and genuinely, I have to say, even though some of our friends got sick from the food, it was amazing hospitality, and generally speaking, the people that we interacted, granted it was only 2 people, They were very nice, very warm, very welcoming. Seemed to like the fact that we would come to their village to see it.
Jacob, are they very open to the gospel?
They're not hostile,
Okay.
but they're very much focused on their own community and their own beliefs. They're inward looking, yet they are friendly. Like I've had Druzies like come over out of their way, like pull over and bring a basket of apples and want to share their food with you. It's part of their religion to be nice, and they grow these nice fruits and things up in the Gulf. They have nice things that they grow, and they're very. But the same people, it's amazing. The same people who are so nice are fierce warriors. They're fierce soldiers. The Muslims are afraid of them because they're, you're like us, only you're an Israeli. They are fierce soldiers. They have something called Sayeret Druzi. They're Druzi commandos. And there's some of the best soldiers Israel has are these Sayeret Druzi.
Yeah, apparently they've killed about 18. These clashes with the Syrian forces, these are terrorists coming into their villages. They killed about 18 of them. So Al-Jilani sent some more, and the IDF came in to try to help them. So we will see how this is going to go.
Yeah, Israel's hands are tied diplomatically because of Turkish involvement.
Yeah,
Turkey is in control of the new government of Syria, which is not in control of the whole country. The Israelis can only come so close to Damascus. They can't cross a certain line. I think the closest Israelis have ever been is 16 kilometers from Damascus. I don't think they're that close yet. Where you were and I were we were on the east side of Mount Hermon, remember?
Right. Yes.
Okay, that at one time had been Syria. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's about as close as you can get, unless you're a soldier. These slaughters were taking place less than 45 minutes from where we were. We were filming on. They were being slaughtered 45 minutes from where we were.
Wow.
It's diplomatically and politically complicated because of Erdogan and because of Turkey. So the Americans and the Israelis are trying to pressure the Turkish government to stop the Syrian government.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
A lot of the killing is not being done by the Syrian government. It's being done by radical Islamic militias. It's not
right. They're just going completely wild in that area because there's really no real structural government. They just sort of
correct.
Jacob, three things: the airstrikes on Hezbollah, the IDF intercepting a Houthi missile today in Haifa, or toward Haifa, and the Iranian talks. The U.S. Did not go through with them for tomorrow. They've canceled them. They were supposed to take place in Rome, but they're not going to be there. But the Iranian government is meeting with the E3, the three European countries, the UK, Germany, and France, to try to diplomatically deal with some kind of Iranian deal. I'll leave it up to you. Which one do you want to tackle first? Hezbollah, the Houthis out of Yemen, and the Iranian nuclear talks.
Okay, the Iranian nuclear talks are just posturing. They've not kept any agreements they've ever made. America's interest, Israel's interests, the interests of moderate of Sunni countries were betrayed by the Obama administration and then by Biden. This nuclear development of the weapons-grade plutonium, the bill was paid by Barack Obama and by Joseph Biden. America funded it when they would not enforce the oil embargoes on Iran. America paid for it. We can thank Biden and we can thank Obama and we can thank Austin for what is happening. What they're trying to do in Rome, negotiating with the European powers who are in NATO and in the EU instead of America, is to bring a division inside NATO between the European NATO powers and the Americans. They're simply playing the game of trying to divide one against the other. They have no intentions of not developing a nuclear capacity with weapons-grade plutonium, and they're very close to having some kind of a warhead. Very close. Nothing they say can be trusted. The stupid European left will believe them, same as the stupid liberals in America believed Obama and Biden, but that did not inhibit Iran from continuing its pursuit. They would not allow inspections of the sites without 30 days warning. There was a lot of other things that were happening, and they were violating the terms. Mr. Trump did not put up with this. Mr. Biden not only put up with it, he picked up the bill for it. He gave them a tip. This was Biden. You're talking about between Biden is $150 billion. Between Biden and Obama, $300 billion to this regime. When the people of Iran first rose up against this regime during the first Obama administration, Obama would not support them.
No.
The way it would look like the way that the Saudi Arabians after September 11th, the way the House of Saud and members of the House of Saud who funded Al Qaeda, the way the Saudi Arabians had the Bush administration in their back pocket, the Iranians had the Obama administration in their back pocket. Democrat, Republican, both sold America down the river, both sold Israel down the river, both sold the more moderate Sunni Arab states down the river. They sold us down the river. That was the Republicans, particularly Cheney and Bush, with the Saudis, House of Saud after September 11th. And it was with the Shias with Obama and Biden.
David Lister, I'm going to go to you regarding the Iranian nuclear talks with the U.S. Obviously, we've seen that Obama instituted. They had these, as Jacob was talking about, all these payments to Iran 2015. Trump backed out of it in 2018. The Europeans were not very happy about that. They were not part of that decision. They want to get back into the ballgame. But I wanted to ask you about the coming future talks. It seems like Marco Rubio is probably going to be a part of that. He's been very tough on Iran, at least in words, but I think there's more to it than that. He wants to stop the sponsoring of terrorism, enriching long-range missiles. They need to allow inspection. He's been very tough on Iran, and he might be a part of this. Mike Waltz is out as National Security Advisor. Rubio's in. I don't think Witkoff is going to be part of this conversation, but your thoughts on Rubio and being part of this?
Well, he's hardline. He's very pro-Israel. So those are two good points in his favor. But it's going to be very hard for the Iranians to give up their enrichment program because it doesn't take long to make nuclear-grade fissionable material. But yet they've been enriching for quite a long time. And they have enough of the centrifuges to make it. They want to make 6 nuclear weapons. Israel keeps saying they're close, but if they're close, they have a lot less motivation to put it off, which I think they just put it off this weekend for another week.
Yeah.
So, and then if they don't, I mean, like Persians are great negotiators. Very few people get over on them.
Yep.
You know, in fact, I had two of them taught me how to play backgammon in college and taught me about business and negotiation. They're very good. So, but they've got to give it up. So he's got to hold the line on that. But they need the material because if they get a bomb, no country that it has nuclear material has ever been invaded. And this is, I think, their thinking, is that if we get the bomb, we get a missile, nobody will bother us. But we'll see if that happens. There's also, like you were talking about earlier, about the missile problems down in that dock area.
Well, this is Bandar Abbas. This is the port that was blown up.
Yeah, they said there was just one explosion, but later reports show there was 3 and multiple ones. So at least 3 and maybe other ones. So a lot has burned. Like you said, hundreds are dead. So this may have set their missile program back, which would be good. And then maybe they could get in there. And then also, this port is very important for for the GDP of Iran. And so they've lost that. They need to rebuild it. And they don't really have millions of dollars like they used to, or billions of dollars. They've been put under the strain. They give a lot of it away for terrorism. So they're being hemmed into a corner by Trump, and they're going to have to do something if they want to survive. Because I mean, Walsh, who's no longer with them, called out Hesed when he said the mullahs should realize we have capabilities to destroy them. Speaking of the B-2s there in Dago, I forgot the name of the
Diego
island.
Garcia.
Diego Garcia, correct. Yeah, so they're being pushed on all sides. I pray they choose peace, but if they do choose a peace, it will only be for a short time.
Yeah.
It'll be the false peace like the Bible talks about. Peace and safety, then sudden destruction. It's always a false peace.
That's right. Jacob, I wanted to ask you this. Since Mike Waltz is out, and it looks like it was a bit of a shock, and I think to some people, they may think it was because of that signal, Signal Gate thing that happened, but he's actually being nominated to be the UN ambassador now.
Ambassador to the UN, yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
The Congresswoman,
Stefanik.
yes, she would have been excellent as well.
Yeah.
But due to the narrow margin of control of the House, Mr. Trump told her to stay in Congress. We need her extra vote. It couldn't risk it going into Democratic hands in a state like New York, which it could happen. Therefore, someone else had to be appointed. Mr. Trump can conveniently say, we're simply transferring him from one major position to another. He did not resign. He was not fired. He was simply transferred. So it saves face for the administration, although CNN and MSNBC will never admit that.
That's correct.
Yeah. What I wanted to ask you was all of it together, putting the pressure on Iran, trying to get this deal with Ukraine and Russia, which is not done yet. Which, by the way, they walked out of the conversations this week, and they're not going to make a deal this weekend, as I had hoped, some kind of peace treaty or some kind of truce. But putting it all together with the tariffs, with what's going on in the Middle East, in Europe, the Trump 100 days was April 29th, a few days ago. Your thoughts and on the 100 days and how the left has responded to the 100 days.
The left is not only frustrated and pulling its own hair out, it is trying to pretend it has a viable narrative when all it can do is recycle the same old narrative, pandering to the radical left that it had before the election. Instead of having the political sense to change direction and to move to a more centrist position, it is pandering further to the left, setting the stage for a nomination either of Harris again or of Alexander Ortega-Cortez or some other left-wing lunatic. They're just going further in the direction that cost them the election. That is what they're doing. And if you watched the screaming argument on CNN between Ana Navarro, who's from The View, but this took place on CNN, and Michael Singleton, you should watch that. We should show that clip. That shows you what's happening. They're turning on each other. They are turning on each other. Remember, there has been no democratically selected presidential candidate in the Democratic Party in decades, virtually. Hillary Clinton was pushed in by the supermajority voters, orchestrated by Barbara Brazil. It was, if it was a fair primaries, Sanders would have got the nomination. Okay, not that I like Sanders, but there's nothing democratic about the Democratic Party. Harris was appointed by Biden, and who forced the party establishment to back her. But she did not win any primaries. She was not selected by any primary or convention process. There was no open convention. She just didn't. Biden likewise. Biden was pushed in to fight Trump because he seemed like their best bet. But it was the superdelegates that got Biden nominated. They have not had a democratic selection. The Democratic Party has not democratically elected a presidential candidate in going on 20 years. That is the reality. Barack Obama was the last one. There's been no Democratic candidate since Barack Obama who was democratically selected. Now, I don't like Obama, but he was democratically selected. The other ones are not. It just shows you it's a one party. They want a one party state. They want to run by a Politburo. They have the same mentality as Maduro in Venezuela. The same mentality as that crazy guy. What was the guy in Nicaragua?
Ortega.
Yeah, Ortega. Same kind of mentality. They've not been able to go that far due to the American Constitution, but that is the mentality that they want. A one-party state run by what the Soviets called an apartchik, an elitist core. That's the way they're moving. And they're continuing to move that way.
Yeah.
After the election, instead of reconsolidating and saying we have to get a better strategy, we have to move to the center. Instead of saying, look, Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat and Robert Kennedy Jr. was a Democrat. And, Elon Musk was a Democrat. Donald Trump was a Democrat. And now they're Republicans. We've got to stop this hemorrhage of traditional Democrats going to the Republicans. We have to move towards the center. Instead, they're moving further to the left. Please watch that argument between Ana Navarro and Sir Michael Singleton. If we could get that up, it would be fantastic.
Marco, can I add something here?
Jay,
it's
look
better
it up.
than a Bugs Bunny cartoon, I'm telling you.
Yeah, we'll put it on our edited version, Jay, if that's okay. If we can find it and put it on the edited version of Catching Up, that would be awesome. Go ahead, David.
Okay. The Democrats are trapped now by the polls.
Yes.
No matter which way they look at things, the polls are lying. They've all been exposed that the polls are not telling the truth. Recently, they showed that even though Trump had 50% of the electorate, when the Democrats have been polling, they only put 37% Republicans that voted. So they're trapped in the polls. They have to make sure the polls lie. Then the second thing they've got is they've got no backup. They've got nobody to pull them out. There's no young Mr. Clinton. There's no leadership for them. And so now with the scandal of Biden, the media can't save them anymore. The media has been exposed as totally corrupt as the polls. Yes. So they got no backup plan. They're just trapped in their own quagmire.
Yeah, David.
David. Sorry to interrupt. David is absolutely right. But not only are the media unable to save them, the media appear unable to save themselves. Yeah. The trouble that MSNBC and CNN are in, they're unable to save themselves. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. But we get the left, and that was part of the answer. But you still haven't given me. What do you think of Trump 100 days, Jacob?
Oh, I could do that one.
Well, I'll go back to you. You guys talked about the left. I know you guys like to harp on the left, but I want to know your thoughts on 100 days.
I think he has taken a dynamic gamble. No one has ever done this in living memory or anything like this, but it does illustrate and demonstrate that he thinks like a businessman.
Interesting.
He postures. When he says something, he might not do it, but he lets you know he can do it and he'll be willing to do it. And this is what's going to happen if you don't negotiate. He comes from a position, he negotiates from a position of strength. He thinks like a businessman, not like a politician. It's posturing. It is all posturing. The response of the left again is absurd.
Yeah.
We want unfair, reduce the tariffs. Well, go ahead. Tell the Canadians to reduce them. We're only reciprocating. The way the media has distorted the reality, it's only a reciprocal tariff policy to what they're doing to us.
That's right. Jacob, so give me a grade, A, B, C, D, F.
I would give him you cannot grade it yet. We have to see if it works. Okay. My concern is Will it work before the midterm elections?
So far, 100 days. What do you think?
It could go either way.
Okay.
It is in the balance. Only 2 times in modern history has the administration in power won the midterm elections. Obama described his first midterms as a shellacking. People tend to go for the opposite party. It happened with Bush, who was able to capitalize on 9/11 and the national patriotic sentiments. And somebody else did it because they had fiscal policies that benefited a lot of certain groups of people. But it's very rare for an administration to be able to prevail in the midterms, given the fact that the House majority is so narrow. This is the crucial issue. We need to be thinking and praying about the midterm elections. That is what's on the horizon. Everything has to be thought of in terms of that. The question of will Mr. Trump's gambles and strategy work or not, that's one issue. The other issue is, will they work sufficiently before the midterm elections?
All right, very good. David, first 100 days, give me a grade based on everything, right? It's not just the domestic policies, but foreign policies, peace treaties, China, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Russia. Your grade on the first 100 days.
See, for me, I'm very positive on what Mr. Trump's done. I think Jacob's explanation of digging down, talking about a foundation, I think what Jacob was saying on that is true about what Mr. Trump has done. I think he's laying a great foundation, and I think he's being successful. Just today we're having a report, so I would be giving him an A, that the EU is wanting to come to the table. It looks so bad for them. Their amount of money that they've made off of us, the amount of money they're not putting into NATO, we're coughing up 70%. And then on top of that, we now know that the EU has spent twice as much money buying energy from Russia and then what they supplied to the Ukraine. And so they've been playing both sides against the middle, and we've come out in the hole. And so now they're all looking to come to the table on the trade. Vietnam said that we have a special relationship with the United States, better than any other country. Cambodia allowed 2 Japanese warships to come into Cambodia's harbor built by the Chinese. Zen's efforts to go and recruit friends has failed. Japan isn't in, South Korea isn't in, and so it doesn't look good for him. And the EU is wanting to take tariffs off of the wine, whiskey, and everything from America because they need to negotiate. It's reported today, all 37 countries want to come to the table. So if this is the foundation of resetting the world's trade barriers, I think Trump has laid a great foundation. I'm very enthusiastic about it. And in fact, I'm so enthusiastic about what I've read today and this week is that I've gone back into the market. I'm not telling anybody to do what they do with their money, but I've gone back in.
All right. So we're not giving any financial advice, just to make sure everybody knows.
No, we're not doing that. I said
it's a joke.
What I did today.
Yeah, it's a joke. I just like to say because somebody's going to say financial advice. We're not giving financial advice, but I do want to ask a question. Davey from Australia, how does it look from that perspective? From an international perspective, give me 100 days, your best estimate.
Okay. Well, look, I think Trump has been great for America, and he's been kind of like a stick in the spokes of a bicycle wheel, I guess, for the global world order and the WEF and all those who are pushing those kind of policies. But what I've seen here in Australia, and I've also noticed it in other countries like the UK New Zealand, and that there's been a growing anti-American sentiment because of Trump being in policies. And in fact, with the election here today, and actually the ABC just ran an article, and they're not the only newspaper who's done one with a similar headline, basically saying that because of Trump's policies, they may be gifting Albanese the election because of,
Oh man,
Same as Canada.
Because of it's because of the one of the things he's running on is the tariffs, So it's kind of like he hasn't really got any real policies for himself because he's only got left-leaning policies anyhow, which are basically being dictated to him by a group called the Emily's List. They're the ones who are really in control of the Labor Party here, an extreme feminist group, which is why they're so radical with abortion and, all the other crazy leftist issues. But look, it's playing into our election here. Both parties are actually pro-China. If you look at Dutton too, he's also pro-China too, but maybe not quite to the degree as outspoken as Dutton. But none of them here are dealing with the real issues, like immigration or anything like that. So he's running on a policy that Trump's bad. But the concern for me is the growing anti-American sentiment that we're seeing in the UK from Starmer, that we're seeing from China, that we're seeing from Canada, and that we're seeing from Australia. It's kind of like they're using it to, demonize Trump.
That's correct.
But I think Trump has been great for America. I wish our leaders like Starmer, Albo, or whoever else gets in here. I think it's unfortunately, unless the Lord grants us a miracle, I think we're going to see Albo get back in again. But I hate to say that, but I wish our leaders would actually put Australians first, or the Starmer put the British citizens first instead of having this globalist agenda where immigration's gone through the roof. None of them will talk about immigration. Abortion and all the rest of it. They're taboo subjects. You're not allowed to talk about them here, And in fact, at the polling stations, people are running on parties that are running on, being, anti-abortion or talking about immigration, their immigration politics. They're told, oh, you're not allowed to talk that might upset somebody. So other parties aren't even allowed to talk about their platforms they're running on. But that's been my concern, the growth of the anti-American sentiment, and we're seeing that strongly here in the Commonwealth countries. Yeah. But for America, I think Trump's been great, and
very good.
What about
I wish our countries would think of us.
Okay, so you gave him a good
leader
grade.
Said too that he believes China is essential for Australia. You guys are putting yourselves into China's camp. I don't think it's going to work well for you.
No, Daniel Andrews and Albo, the Labor government sold us out to China years ago. Daniel Andrews did secret deals with China back in, I think it was 2017 or 2018. They kept it secret for years. Some of those things have been leaked out. We still don't know the extent, but he basically signed us up to the China Silk Belt Road project.
Essential is what he called it.
China owns way too much.
Yeah.
Let
me reset the tables here. So we hit the hour mark right now. So just want to remind everybody, we aren't catching up with Jacob. Send your questions in. We'll be on backstage. We got a few topics to go. We'll be on backstage soon. So send in your questions. Jacob's got the answers to life. And through the word. Yes, amen. Through the word. Jay, real quick, we're going to jump into Canada's election, but go ahead and finish that topic real quick.
For my grades, I would give him a B+ on engagement against China, which is basically, our economic adversary, if we want to call it that. I'd give him a C on pushing things that like the digital ID. Which is, we were hoping we would get relief from the draconian invasion of our privacy with Trump, but it seems like he's on board. So he's pushing the real ID, for the entire United States. In fact, I believe today you cannot fly on a domestic flight without a real ID.
Is that May 2nd, right? May 2nd?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
we're on.
that is taking us into a social credit score.
Yeah.
That's where that's heading. So he's pushing the policy of the globalists. So I give him a C on that. Let's see. The tariffs I covered. With Israel and the Middle East and the war in Ukraine, I think I give him maybe a B. But so I'm going to average it out to a B minus.
Okay.
Right now, 100 days in.
100 days in. All right. Jacob,
I think the next 100 days are going to
be.
be real important, Marco. The next 100 are going to, I think we're going to see some amazing things.
Well, yeah, that's just dealing with the first 100. Dealing with the first 100. I don't want to get too far in it because there's so many spider webs that can come from that. So, but I do want to jump to the Canadian elections. Jacob Prash, we've seen that the Liberals won, and I'm going to set it up before we get into it. Trudeau 2.0 is back, but I think it's more nefarious than that. The Boomers,
Yes.
So we're talking about people 60 and over. I think your generation. That in Canada, so I'm not talking about American ones, but Canada, they seem to be that their main concern was Trump.
Yes.
The young people, main concern was the economy, illegal immigration, the affordability, et cetera, et cetera. The true things. It seems like the boomers were only concerned about how much their house is worth and how much then they can get out of it, and Trump staying out of their business. Mark Carney won. Jacob, take us through that because I think this is really, really bad.
Hey, Carney, who was a loser in the Bank of England, is already a loser in Canada. What you really see is something odd. In the 1960s, the youth were of the left. The older generation was of the right.
Yeah.
Canada and in other countries, this is becoming reversed. It is the nature of youth and of students to challenge the establishment. But now, unlike the baby boomers who challenge the establishment from the left, they are the establishment and they're being challenged by the youth from the right. It is a complete reversal sociopolitically of what happens. We have to understand the dynamic in that context. You have to take a historical long view. That's the first thing. By making Trump the issue instead of the economy and immigration, they put a noose around the neck of the next generation for their own short-term advantage. This has resulted in movements towards secessionism. The secessionism is not only Alberta or Quebec French, the Quebecois. Now you have growing secessionist movements in eastern British Columbia and Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And remember, it is constitutional to secede in Canada. It's not like the United States, who had a civil war to preserve the Union triggered by the issue of slavery. Canada, they can do it. Canada can literally be cut in half. Liberal Vancouver can be cut off from Toronto and Ottawa. It can absolutely, in the maritime provinces, it can absolutely happen. Already on the east, the maritime provinces are cut off by Quebec from the rest of Canada if Quebec became independent. So if Quebec becomes independent, you'd have a Canada in the maritime provinces like New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, and all that. Then you'd have a French-speaking state. Then you'd have Ontario, okay? And then you'd have this new Western Canada. And then you'd have Vancouver, which is the old Canada. The country is being pushed to the brink of fragmentation by this incompetence. The idea was to hold the country together. By focusing on Trump instead of focusing on their own issues, they signed their own death warrant. Canada is in trouble. Now, understand this. There's a political reaction from the right in Canada. There is a political reaction from the right with the Reform Party, with the by-election victories of Nigel Farage and the Reform Party in Britain, okay? So what you see in Britain, what you see in Canada, what you see in Australia, they're all going the same direction over the Trump thing, etc. But there's a counter reaction from the right. Free Tommy Robinson in England, the Reform Party. You're seeing it in Canada, in the Western provinces particularly, and most particularly Alberta. And you're seeing it, and you're going to see a reaction in Australia. Eventually, there'll be right-wing reaction in Australia as well. Australia will follow the same pattern as Britain and as Canada. You're going to see a right-wing reaction if Albanese wins the election in Australia. It's going to bring political instability. The Liberal government of Carney is very precarious. It's a minority government. It's not politically stable. If Albanese is reelected, he will not be politically stable in his majority. That is my view. I think Australia will follow Canada and Britain. My prediction.
Yeah.
All right.
Not a
Maybe
prophecy, but a prediction.
Let me add a few more notes to it, Davey. Let me add a few more notes to it, and you can talk about that. Carney won primarily because of the boomers. There is, of course, Carney's track record. He's a big W Economic Forum guy, and he is not just some dummy. Some people are calling it Trudeau 2.0. I think Trudeau was the dummy. I don't think Carney is. I think Carney is a member foundation of the board of the World Economic Forum, agenda contributor, board of trustees. He has that Brookfield Asset Management, was about $1 trillion that they manage. So he comes with a robust globalist idea of zero carbon, digital IDs, digital currency, and of course, social credit score. So this is what's coming to Canada, and this is my concern that literally, as Jacob said, to put a noose around people's neck over the next years. I don't know how it will hold up. There's obviously some big problems economically because capital investment is leaving Canada and going to places like Texas, Tennessee, and in Georgia. But we'll see. We'll see how the Canadian. But this is not very good at all. Davey, your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, just to Jacob's point about the growing extreme right-wing thing, that is actually growing here. We've got a group here that's actually calling for a day of the rope. That's from the extreme right-wing side. We're getting an extreme left-wing, but we're getting an extreme right-wing.
Correct.
I don't know if they're that extreme, though, Davey. I think that there may be, most of them are probably just Australian patriots, Australia First patriots.
Would you lost to their country?
I do know.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
You know.
Oops, we've got a bad connection.
Yeah, I think it is.
But I can just consider them more conservative, middle of the road, not extreme right wing, but we have got extreme right wing ones calling for.
I think we're losing Davey. Yeah, Davey. I think the connection is up
he
and
said
down.
there would be a storm coming through. So,
Davey,
Yeah.
you mean the Pauline Hanson types? Yes.
Pauline Hanson's One Nation's polling better, and that's encouraging. But we do have other extreme groups, unfortunately, who are calling for basically violence, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Jay, I'm going to go to you real quick. This is a nightmare government in Canada. Not only the lockdowns that we've seen here in California, very similar to that, the net zero carbons that Carney loves so much, and to your point about digital passport, digital ID, social credit score, and CBDCs, he's a big part of that, leading proponent in the World Economic Forum. That is coming full flex on steroids to Canada. Your thoughts?
I think, unfortunately for Canada, many people in Canada feel, according to the polls, that Donald Trump is the greatest threat in the world.
yeah.
And unfortunately, when you have that mindset, you can slip a lot of baggage and all sorts of things in underneath that umbrella. And unfortunately, I think it destroyed this election. You had the conservative wing, as we talked about in the pre-show, who were distancing themselves from Trump and actually getting antagonistic with him. At the same time, it's like, I bet you a lot of Canadians were, what's the difference between these two parties?
There was none at the end.
So they had no choice. And that's what the WEF does. They make it so you have no choice because both sides are in their pocket.
Yes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
The one guy, Povla, he blew a 29-point lead, right?
26.
26-point lead.
Yeah.
Was it all Trump? I mean, or was he, because today he sounded like he's in the World Economic Forum's back pocket. Was he always that way?
Well, to Jay's point, he didn't like. I mean, this is Canadian boomers. No offense to anybody. We love the believers there, and we love Canadians like the support the ministry and stuff like that. But it was things to see that you couldn't even like. It was like California all over again, where people were voting for their own doom. In a very large degree, and the reality was that Pollier, which is supposed to be the conservative, was actually more in line with the liberals saying, well, Trump doesn't have anything to do with us. We don't want Trump, the tariffs, 51st state. And they were more concerned about Trump being trolled than the actual policies that needed to happen to change Canada and bring it back from the brink. And was it his fault? Well, he went after the Sikh vote more than the Canadian vote. He was more interested in getting the Sikhs on board than he went for the Canadians. David Lister, is Canada going the way of Europe with net zero carbon? Are we going to see these blackouts like we did in Western Europe this week?
Well, they voted for it, didn't they? So, they don't, and they have so much energy and they have so much good things up there, and the forest, they can absorb all this carbon and everything. But this guy wants to take them down to the road that the way Spain and Portugal end up. When you end up with the sun not shining and the wind not blowing, you got no power. And then it just fails. It's not like with fossil fuels where you can switch from station to station quickly if one's going down.
Yeah.
There, it overloads the system too quick, and you saw a magnificent sight of confused people with no way home and no water and no phone, and just they went back to cave dwelling for 3 days, wasn't it? So
yeah,
It was.
with no explanation. They just say, well, it was a storm. Oh, it was this. Oh, they had no answers. Where in reality, 11 days before, Spain was touting the fact that they were going to be one of the first countries to be absolutely net neutral on that day, and where everything is going to be renewable. There were going to be solar, going to be wind, there were going to be hydro, no coal, no real fossil fuel. And 11 days later, on the total blackout.
I saw a graph of cascading failure from their national thing. They had to call France to please rescue us, and and all the neighboring countries to help them out. But going carbon neutral when you have all these fossil fuels, and you've got, as Jacob and I were talking about, the smokeless coal that we have in Pennsylvania and
West Virginia.
Also in West Virginia, as well as we've got so much liquid natural gas that that is not wrong for the environment, and we have so much of it. We burn it off 24 hours a day for the last 40 years, and it's still there and up in Alaska. And we're going to be building liquid natural gas plants up there. The Chinese, not the Chinese, but the Japanese and South Koreans are interested in doing a giant dual project to fill for them to use it. So,
yeah, Jacob, I want to ask you a question before we move on from Canada. Alberta wants out, Saskatchewan wants out. They already said it today. Don't know what the ramifications would be at the moment or what the process would be, although it seems a little bit easier than the American way of breaking away from the union. But do you think they'll become independent, or will they really do what some have said, that they will want to join the United States?
I think the approximately 30, in Alberta at least, the 30% wanted secession prior to the election. That has probably gone up above 50%. Whether that's an emotional knee-jerk reaction to Carney's election, I don't know. But it certainly pushed up the number and percentage proportion of people in Alberta. But it has also spread to the other provinces.
Yes.
I can see its viability would be, it would only have one port on Hudson Bay. And that would be a cold water port. That would be, you need icebreakers going most of the year to keep the port functioning. So a landlocked country is always going to be at an economic disadvantage. The Northwest Passage is only open 6 weeks of navigation if it went up into the Northern Territories. So they've got a problem. Economic realities, however, prevail, tend to dictate what's going to happen politically. Already the provinces are engaging in economic relation negotiations, not with Washington, but with North Dakota and Montana.
Yeah.
It's provinces to states. It's happening already on a grassroots level, And I can see how economic realities will propel them towards the 51st state eventually. I'm not saying all the people who want secession want to be American, but a fair percentage do, and economic realities can move the equation. Mr. Trump may not have been just talking nonsense when he said 51st state. He may have been speaking about a reality that most other people couldn't perceive at the time. I cannot rule it out. On the other hand, it does remain to be seen. What we can
I heard a snap poll today, Jacob, of over 15,000 people going 88% to separate.
Yep. Now, another thing to remember is much like Albanese and Daniels in Australia, and Hunter Biden in Washington, Carney has a standing relationship with China that was laid down, that was not publicized. Again, what happens in Australia is the same as what's happening in Canada and in Britain. The same basic pattern is happening. And the China card is a factor in all three. It is a proxy confrontation between Trump and China. And the left is going towards China, and the others are going to have to make a decision.
Yeah, I don't think China can rescue Australia and the rest of the world. I think they may very well. I know they're paranoid, and they're not the giant power that. Well, at least they don't think they're the giant power that the rest of the world thinks they are. I mean, they could do terrible damage to the world, but
keep your eye on English-speaking India.
Yes.
125 million people in India speak English as their main language.
Yep. They're
a lot of the other Indians, the ones who speak Punjabi and Hindi and so forth, also speak English, especially the educated ones and the merchants and people like that. But there's 125 million people in India speak English as the main language. I remember catching a flight in Hyderabad, in India, and I'm sitting in the airport. All the announcements were in English.
Yeah.
India has the biggest population now, not China. China is going to lose 600 million people. Those people putting their bets on China are betting short term. They do not have a long-term vision for what is going to happen. Longer term, you've got to look at the alternatives to China. You can't lose 600 million people and remain what you were. Look at Japan. Something happened this past week. It was announced that the GDP of Japan is lower than the GDP of California. It is not unlikely that the GDP of Deutschland, of Germany, is going to dip below California. Not because California is growing. California is declining, but Japan and Germany are declining more so. And one of the reasons is the low birth rate. The United States committed the same genocidal atrocities of abortion, except because of immigration, we were able to compensate for it. Germany is being overrun by Muslims. They can't do anything about it. Japan can never be what it was. Russia can never be what it was. China can never be what it was. Germany can never be what it was. They cannot. They just don't have the population base to be it. We need to be looking at the future. India, Brazil, Africa, but not not the powers that be. They're on their way out and they know it. California, if you took California out of the USA, it would be after United States, Russia, after the United States, China, Germany, California would be the fourth biggest GDP in the world, not because it's growing. It isn't. It's shrinking. It's just that the others are shrinking faster.
Yeah.
This is a bad situation. Yeah, I'm telling you, if something doesn't happen, you're going to see California's GDP overtake that of Germany. The GDP of Deutschland will be less than California, not because California is doing great, it's doing crummy, but because the Germans are doing worse. It's what happened in Japan will happen in Germany. It's unbelievable. And there's a demographic reality. A demographic decline is the dynamo driving this.
Yeah. Well, we're real happy to hear that they've been doging a long time. And I guess they found that 24 billion, Jay, and the other billions of dollars that they've been given, and the $100 billion for the railroad. Have they doged that and found where it went?
I mean, that choo-choo train from Governor Brown was absolutely disgusting.
Idiocy of it.
Yeah, and they spent so many billions of dollars for it to go nowhere.
And it's not even 1 mile of actual rails laid.
That's right. That's right.
100 billion, 24 billion for homeless. And if you have more homeless, as you were talking about homelessness today.
Yeah, I mean, right now,
illegal aliens with no right to be in the country. They're spending more money on that than they are on California.
Yep. They spend billions of dollars of homeless, yet as I look out right across the street, underneath the freeway pass by my house, there are new tents popping up. In fact, at least 9 that are in view of my house, my apartment. We're gonna
ready for Tennessee yet?
Not quite.
We have a small Japanese community that we want to grow.
Yes, it'd be 2, I think, in Dover. We're going to move on to the last topic. I'm going to be taking over because Marco had to go, so please bear with me. Our final topic. This has been asked by many people for Jacob's comment on. Well, his name is Abdullah Hashem El Sadiq. And he is making the rounds. He was talked about on Ruslan. He was talked about on Good Fight. Chad Davidson rightly said, I believe, that basically Christian discernment ministries are giving him more airtime than he actually gets. So right now he is going viral because he claims to be the Mahdi. We have a video. We'll play it for you, Jacob. Can we just get your reaction? Here, give me one.
This man, say his name again.
His name is Abdullah Hashem El Sadiq.
The servant of God, the name, which is what Jews call Yahweh, Sadiq, the righteous. That's what his name means. Now, notice something. He's claiming to be the savior for Christians, for Jews, and for Muslims. This is pure Antichrist.
Yep.
Fortunately, however, while he is an Antichrist with a small a, he's also an insane crackpot. He says that Peter was the heir of Christ, then Mohammed was the heir of Christ, and now he is the heir. The man is a combination of an Antichrist with a small a and a complete crackpot. I don't know why anybody is paying attention to him. However, if you read my book, Shadows of the Beast, I said that the Antichrist will be able to misrepresent himself as being all things to all people, the way Herod the Great did. To the Jews, he'll seem like a Jew. To the Europeans, he'll seem like a Western Judeo-Christian European. To the Arabs, he'll appear like an Arab Muslim. That much is true. He's an indicator of this spirit that's coming to set the stage for the real Antichrist. But this guy is too much of a crackpot to be a serious candidate to be the man of lawlessness.
Well,
Jacob,
it's funny you should mention that. Oh, absolutely. Let me just put this out there real quick. So he got a degree about comparative religions from the University of Indianapolis. So he is a crackpot. Don't get me wrong. but he has been well trained
Oh, yes.
in theology to be able to make
Yep.
this bridge between the connections. Go ahead,
Yep.
David.
Well, so with that said by Jay, did he get his money's worth being in a liberal arts school?
I think he did. He's got a great following, and they're selling homes to go and live on a commune like David Koresh style.
Yep. There's going to be
Yeah.
David, going to be Jim Jones, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The one thing that stood out to me too is kind of like, we know, look, false Christs are going to come and all the rest of it. They'll even, perform, false signs and wonders and that. But the thing that stood out to me too, he's uniting people too with their hatred of America. Now, in the Islamic eschatology, they always refer to America as a great Satan. But I see again this, attempt to unite people against their hatred of America, which that was one of the things.
Yeah, another thing that I noticed that immediately he started to really just draw horrible attention. I mean, I think there's a movement inside the Muslim world and in the Christian world to discredit the Apostle Paul, and he is fully on board. He does not like He does not like Romans. He wants to make sure that, yes, you don't need the authority of a government above you. Another thing that really disturbed me, Davey, is listening to his followers and the supposed miracles ascribed to him. He
Yes, that's
raised
the
my
more
mother from
scary
the
thing.
dead. That if someone believes that their mother was raised from the dead, or they lost an illness because of this man, or they've seen angels, again, I would refer to you to the founders of the Old Man on the Mountain. He started the hashish cult by giving them drugs to have visions, and they were willing to die for him.
Yep.
That's how bad it, I think, with these kind of visions and miracles and false signs and wonders. Again, I think it is a spirit of the age.
In the counterfeit revivals and everything, as they were happening in Africa, we, Sandy Simpson, me, and a few others were writing articles on these supposed prophets in Africa that were raising the dead. And then later we were able to expose some of that because of the use of formaldehyde that puts you in semi-coma state. You wake up later. So there's ways to do this, to somehow fake raise the dead. But that was a big draw to these guys. They had lots and lots of people coming to him because he promised to raise from the dead. And, so it's a big draw, and he's getting a bigger draw, but he's Antichrist.
To your point, what's the most disturbing is he is on the back of all not only are the conspiracy theorists pushing him, but now you have the Christian discernment mystery pushing him, and finally you have just interest at the virality of him, just drawing more and more people to him. And I think people are searching for things other than the standard package of religion, and he gives them that. He is a Jim Jones.
Yeah. Were you talking about a real Christian discernment sites or some with somewhat knowledge of some discernment?
I would say some are real discernments. I would chalk Good Fight as a real discernment.
Okay, but they're not touting him. They're saying he's Antichrist.
Yeah, well, they're discrediting him. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but how about some of these others?
Now, some of the others, they're what I would chalk it up to is clickbait. People know that the story is going viral, and so they're going with it. And the only reason we're bringing it up, and I really mean this, is if it was one person who asked me to do it, but several people have asked for Jacob's take on this guy. So we felt compelled to do it, and we're not give it that much airtime, but we're going to talk about it.
The end of the night too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so a guy with a liberal arts degree is now portraying himself as Antichrist, all things to all people. And in a viral world, he's making a couple bucks.
I think there's something called Jerusalem syndrome, which we talked about it, where once you go to these sites, you come back and you feel like you're more special than you are. He strikes me as a person who has that. He studied so much theology that he's taken on the persona of a prophet at this point, because that's the only place he could go.
Yes, that's a good observation.
Why would anyone want to declare himself Antichrist? You know what I mean? Or the Mahdi, or
As long as of Christ, I mean.
Now, I will bring up one thing that another brother showed me. If you take 3 of his names, because he has many, and put them in gematria, it does equal 666. But it's a stretch. You have to take specific names, translate them to Hebrew, and then put them through gematria. So that's not such an easy thing to do. Anyway, I think that's it, right?
Sort of like equidistant letter sequencing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we have a bunch of questions. Jacob will answer them the best he can. If you're watching us on YouTube, unfortunately, you'll have to move over to Twitter or Rumble, and we will answer all the questions that we have been given. I believe, how many do we have today, Davey?
I think it's up to about 18 now.
Oof.
Oh, boy.
Well, we will get through as many as we can. Jacob will answer every single one. We will just ask and have nothing to do with the answer. Anyway, thank you for watching. We're going to go to backstage right now. God bless. Hello, and thank you for watching Moriel TV. There are so many things that are happening at Moriel Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan to India to Africa and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.